Hi y'all, welcome back. This video might get a little heavy because I'm going through feelings. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna do something different, but as a disclaimer, if you don't wanna hear anything and just wanna put your own music, you're more than welcome to, and just like look at the speed paint. If you do wanna listen to me while I do some art that is kind of dark, then sure. We're gonna do this because I'm going through feelings. Mainly because I just finished Dororo, which was a very good watch that I needed. But there's a lot to unpack here, and I think I'm ready to do this after I binge watched Dororo and watched some stuff from Bonsai Pop and also Super Eye Patch Wolf, and I think I'm understanding the kind of feeling that I'm feeling. So this is a little different, but we're gonna do this and it's gonna be okay. I'm telling myself that it's gonna be okay because it will be. I think it will be after I am done processing all of this. So it's weird being me right now. The first thing that I kind of just want to mention is finally, after a week of anxiety and a week of stretching myself so thin, I'm having a moment of rest, of respite, of knowing that things are going to be okay. Mainly because my mom is okay. She lasted a week, and for the most part, she's not longer showing any more COVID symptoms, even though she will be positive for a little bit. And my dad is back in the house. I'm a little nervous about that, but he's here. They've cleaned the house, and for the first time in over a week now, I woke up to a busy kitchen, and it seemed like things were normal. It's normal, but at the same time, it's not. And I want to elaborate on that because even though we're all wearing masks inside the house, even though I know that my mom's going to be testing positive for the next 3 months, even though I know that my dad's gonna be a little stubborn about keeping his mask on during the house, and even though I know that he's recovering from his own COVID, which was a little bit more severe than my mom's, it seems like nothing is happening. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing, because it's giving me anxiety, but at the same time, it's this weird hybrid of being back to normal, which whatever that may be, or whatever that may look like now. But that's what I woke up to today. We found out that my mom was positive last Saturday, so that will make it exactly 7 days ago at the time of this recording. And that week was very long for me because I was the one taking care of her, making sure that she was okay, and also making sure that I was okay, and cooking for the two of us while my dad had to be transferred to my brother's place. But for the first time in over a week, I woke up to a normal day of hearing the kitchen be busy before I wake up, of seeing both my parents in the house with masks, of course, but seeing them together in a space that usually they occupy in. And I'm in this weird space right now where I'm trying to come to terms with figuring out what that normal is looking like for me now. because so many things have changed in the last 4 months, 5 months now, between my dad going through his episode with COVID and starting to recover from that, and now mom who got sick, and all the people who have gotten sick that are in my family, they've all kind of recovered. They still have some lingering effects and all, but most of my core family has gotten COVID, except for me, as far as I know. So it's this weird space that I'm finding myself in and trying to navigate all these waters as to like, how do I make sense of this all? That is kind of difficult for me to like elaborate on. But I have this like pressing pressure on my chest, trying to make sense of it all, because I'm out of that survival mode. I'm trying to figure out what happened and like think back as to all the events that I went through, making sense of it all, and then figuring out what's gonna happen going forward. And it's kind of tough to do this because nobody's gonna tell me, or nobody's gonna do that work for me. And a lot of thoughts are coming into my head, and it's gonna be a little messy, but please bear with me, because I'm doing this kind of alone in the comfort of my room with my newly found Guitar Hero mic, because that's the best thing that I have right now in order to record this without like mushing my face into the screen of my computer. But to go back to the first point that I made, which was me finishing Dororo, which was a great thing that I needed. I think that's what I needed, just this primal crave to just see gore and blood and something to remind me that I'm very much alive. As weird as that sounds, and I might get metaphorical here, I might get very deep or very convoluted. I don't know how this is gonna go, because I'm doing this a little different than I normally do. I am doing the voiceover first before I actually edit the Speedpaint. So we'll see how this goes, but I digress. Back to Dororo. I basically binge watched Dororo while I was taking care of my mom. And lately with my friends, especially my best friend, I've been always kind of brought up the question of like, how do I navigate these waters in relation to my dad getting COVID, in relation to now my mom getting COVID, in relation to where I stand with my family in this high stress situation of living through a dad who almost died in the hospital because of this disease and pandemic, of changing family dynamics that I didn't think that it would happen, even though I had a very pressing and real anxiety that it was going to happen soon. I just didn't know when. Of having a good supervisor who brought this to my attention, that my relationship with my parents, it is no longer the same kind of relationship that I had growing up. It is no longer the relationship of a daughter who needs to be protected by her parents because we're in a new environment. It is no longer the person trying to be rebellious and break free of tradition of my family. It is a changing dynamic where maybe roles have been reversed, and it's difficult because nobody knows how that's supposed to go, because every relationship with every parent between their child is different to whatever you might have with your parents, or whatever I'm having with my parents, or whatever I used to have with my parents. It's tricky navigating who I am in relationship to them. And I think Dororo like sparked this question of like how Hyakimaru goes through his journey to regain what he lost because of his parents, but also understanding why he wants that, and also answering that question to other characters in the anime. And it makes sense. In a visceral way, it makes sense. Because as a child, you don't want to carry whatever your parents are forcing down on you because you never wished for that. And I think that's a very real reason as to why I've been feeling kind of lost. Because Hyakimaru's lost. And the only thing that is driving him back is just this desire of like gaining back what was rightfully his, aka his body, but also understanding that there's a place that he belongs to that found its way to him rather than him creating that space. And it's gonna look and sound weird, but I feel that. And this is just me being like in my feels right now, so it's gonna take me a little bit to just elaborate to my full extent as to like why it's feeling that way. So I finished Dororo, the anime, the 2019 adaptation, which a couple of friends have been asking me to do, and unfortunately for them, they have dropped off the anime because reasons. But I basically binge watched it in a span of a good 7 days a week because I needed something to just take away the anxiety that my mom could die at any moment, even though she was going through mild symptoms, but she still, you know, could have died. She still could have gotten worse, and that's my very real anxiety of just what I went through with my dad just a couple of months ago, flaring up and making me feel the way that I did, even though I was trying to keep my cool and do so much around the house, you know, cook for myself, cook for my mom, making sure that she's taking her medicine, making sure that she's okay, making sure that she's still breathing, that she's still alive, that I'm still able to reach her. And throughout me watching Dororo, I think I was starting to make this connection that it felt like Rurouni Kenshin. It felt like Samurai X. It felt like I was watching a darker version of Himura Kenshin. And I always had this in the back of my mind, like, when are we gonna see Hyakimaru break? When are we gonna see this man go haywire? Because I had this idea that it's gonna be like Kenshin. A little bit more gory, a little bit more excruciating, a little bit more, you have to look at what's going on the screen in order to understand what's happening instead of all the exposition that Kenshin throws at you. But regardless, it was more of like this question of like, when is Hyakimaru gonna break? And he broke twice. No, I'm lying, he broke 3 times. But he didn't break in the sense of what I expected him to be breaking in. In a way, it kind of felt like I was watching kind of how I've gone through, and this is just me making interpretation out of meaning. Because obviously my life is not like Hyakimaru's. I'm not living in the Warren States period. I'm living in modern day America in 2022 in the middle of a panini with very sick parents, very old parents compared to my age. My world is not like his, but his struggle feels like mine. Anyway, I go back to the point. Anyway, like, juggling this idea of like what his family made him go through for the good of the collective whole versus the selfish wishes to just live, because like that's what you're supposed to do. He didn't ask to be put in this world, and they made his life miserable because it was his sacrifice for the collective whole of the land. And it kind of feels like that with my family. Obviously, I love my family very much so, and I would do whatever I can just to make sure that they're not suffering. But it feels like that. It feels like they've been selfish. And for the friends who know in depth of what happened, you know exactly what I'm referring to. For those of you who don't know me, or don't know the details of it, basically, as a 23-year-old girl, as the baby of the family, I had to take responsibilities that were quite overwhelming because they were forced on me. Some of you might argue that it wasn't forced, that it was a necessary evil to be done because dad was in the hospital. But at 23, like, just think about it in a vacuum. At 23, you don't think about my parents are gonna die. You don't think about I need to worry about insurance. I need to worry about jobs and HR. I need to worry about navigating language barriers. Because most of you is innate that you know a language and that's it. That's the world that you live in. But that's not what happened here. That's not what went down in this end. I am bilingual. I know Spanish, and that is my primary language. I know English, and that's my second learned language. But because we live in America, in the United States of America, everything here is English. My core family speaks in Spanish. Most of our struggles and communication between us is in Spanish. But the outside world doesn't know that. The outside world doesn't care for that because everything here is English. So I had to stand in for my mom because she doesn't have the confidence to just throw herself in the water and speak English. It's easier for her to say, my child knows English, they should handle it, and they should help me because I'm their mother. And it's their duty to help their mother in need, especially in trying times. So she needs to go navigate this legal world that I have no idea about and do the thing. Of course, that's not what happened. Instead, it was me bickering with her and trying to figure out, okay, like, what can I do? Because I'm just a child, and technically, legally, it's your responsibility as the spouse to do the thing, but because English is a language barrier, the responsibility is falling to me. And that's not fair, because just as you, I'm anxious about, what's going on, and also, I'm transitioning into a new job. I gotta learn all things all at once. That just kind of like fell on me. It was just a big boulder of stuff that just fell on me. So it feels like that with how Hyakimaru did the stuff. And I haven't seen Dororo. I recommend it, but I wanted to get into spoilers. But just it feels like a struggle like that. And because I kept making this connection of Hyakimaru with Kenshin, I remembered that somewhere along the line there was an anime called Rurouni Kenshin, and some people have made very long analyses about the videos about the series. And I decided to rewatch that because the pressing question of who am I in the eyes of my parents? Who am I in the eyes of my friends? Who am I in the eyes of my employers, of my brother? Who am I to myself? Started to come up. Because again, let me reiterate, I am navigating new waters of what it means to be their daughter with aging parents and someone so young that I'm just barely coming out of my teenage years. I'm barely 23. And I'm doing things that my older brother, who's 32, should be doing. I mean, he probably is doing something. He's probably trying to do something to help us out. But he's not me. And I don't know what he's going through. I don't know what he thinks. But I'm speaking for myself because I'm trying to make sense of it all. So, you have a mother who's about to be 65? Maybe 65? She's 38 years older than me. And a dad who's 2 years younger than my mom. It doesn't feel right. that I'm doing things that are not of my age. I should be worrying about things that a normal 23-year-old girl would do, something that is expected of me, something that is expected, like going to the mall on the weekend with friends because we want to go shopping for cute clothes or something of the sort, you know, working on my social life. But I'm not. Instead, I'm taking care of aging parents. And if it sounds like I'm complaining, I very much so I am. I'm complaining because I'm confused and I'm a little lost, because how things are happening is normally not expected from someone of my age. So it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm trying so hard to make sense of it all just so I can come to terms with it and figure out what I should be doing going forward. So here we are. We're a very long video, but it's fine because I'm taking the time to like figure all this out. And going back to the tangent, the idea of self-identity means different things for different people. For me, it's just trying to figure out where are my boundaries, what are my stances, what's my relationship to the people around me. And the idea of self-identity is very much reflected with Kenshin, with his story of redemption and all that stuff of trying to figure out who you are in your past and can you make amends because of what you did. Can you live comfortably and happily with where you are now, knowing that some shit happened in the past that very much left you scarred? For Hyakkimaru, it's more of like, because of the actions of my family, I am now suffering for very deep scars of not knowing who I am, of knowing that I have to get back something that they took away from me. For Hyakkimaru, it was like his right to be alive and his right to have a body, a physical body to feel, to experience their world through. For me right now, it's expectations of having some sense of freedom, of knowing that my way of experiencing the world is totally different from theirs because age gap, cultural gap, sometimes language barrier, and very much so being open to work on stuff that is very much traumatizing to me, because I'm willing to go to therapy and they're not, because they don't think that they need to work on stuff, because they recognize that even though they have problems, they just pass it off as that's just who I am, and that's not okay. So it's all of this ideas trying to figure out what am I supposed to do that have me kind of. But because it's all of these ideas of trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing, that I kind of like went soul searching. Maybe through very gory, questionable anime that I went to go see, but you know, like just trying to figure out somebody else to put the appeal of Rurouni Kenshin and now Dororo into words for me to like try to figure out what I'm trying to get out of from these two anime. And because of the idea of self-identity and like what it means to kind of like find meaning through media, I ended up going back to watching another of Bonsai Pop's videos on Outlaw Star, that I recognized that, quite honestly, even though my family is supposed to be there for me, they're supposed to be there to support me, to take care of me, to help me, they don't. They have this expected attitude that because we are blood related, we're supposed to help each other out, even put up with each other, but that's not what happened. We broke down multiple times with my mom and dad. We clashed a lot with my brother, with my mom, trying to like support them because they were breaking while my dad was in the hospital. I was their rock, but they were never my rock back to me. Sometimes they would just be there whenever I broke down, like the 2-3 times that it happened. But they didn't provide the words that I needed to hear. Instead, my friends were the ones that did that. Instead, it was my family that was providing the comfort and support that I needed. And that's where Allah Star comes in. Because quite frankly, Jean's crew feels like that. It feels like how it is with my family, with my friends, with the underground. Because they are my family. They have taken care of me more than, quite frankly, my parents and my brother all together. Because they were kind of standoffish. Because, like, they knew that because I was not trying to be a burden, and I did everything I can to just not give them trouble, that's not what I wanted. Instead, my friends provide the space where I need to process things because I'm okay. I'm allowed to. And that's not what I get from my actual blood-related family, and it sucks. Recently, just with that, within the last like 2-3 days, we've been clashing with my friends, with the underground, amongst each other. And I'm not gonna go into details because, quite frankly, that's my personal business. But at the same time, I'm getting to the point where it's the normal February retreat, because I hate February. I hate the month of February for many reasons. But I think, like, I'm coming to the point again, and it's cyclical for me to go through this period of, like, isolation, of trying to figure out who I am, how I've changed over the years, where I'm going, where I'm coming from. Trying to make sense of everything, because nothing makes sense at all, and it's terrifying not knowing what the hell is going on around you. And nobody has the answers to provide because they don't know either. We're just kind of like going through these motions of being lost. And being lost together is comforting. But being lost alone hurts. So I'm going through these motions of trying to figure out where I am, where I'm standing with people, where I can say I'm Diana, where I can say I know who that person is, and I can tell you about them, and because I care so much about them, I'm connected to them. But it's this weird space, this weird headspace that I'm in, where I'm trying to figure out all of this going forward. What it means to work a full-time job, what it means to juggle multiple different facets of my life all at once, what it means to be the daughter of my parents while also being simultaneously the sister of my older brother, while also being the worker at some museum, while also being the friend of so-and-so, while also being the protected because I'm vulnerable, while also being the strong one because I have an expectation to uphold that was forced on me. So it's gonna take me a while to just kind of come to terms with things. Hopefully nothing else is gonna come at me to be able to process what happened in the last 5 months or so, since August 15 to now. And that's a lot to unpack. It's definitely a lot to process and to get meaning out of. But if I don't do this, then who will? Nobody's gonna do this for me except for me. Sometimes I might go up to my friend, to my best friend, to my sister, to tell her, hey, I'm hurting and this is why. Sometimes I just feel things and I don't know why. And it takes me 2 to 3 days to come up with some kind of answer, some kind of way to put it into words for me to communicate with that to another person and tell them I'm hurting. But until I get to do that, then I won't be able to really let go of things. So it's gonna be tough, but it's gonna be okay. And I'm telling myself that because It has to be okay. I don't have an easy way out. And that's probably the toughest and scariest part of doing all of this. So putting this into the world, into whoever can understand what I'm saying. But I think that's also part of the beauty of knowing that I can put whatever the fuck I want on the internet. And if people ask questions, I have the choice to tell them yes or tell them no. But ultimately, trying to figure out who I am and how to describe myself to other people might be what I'm looking for. It might be a way for me to heal. Might be a way for me to stop hating February for its holiday and enjoy it more as just a passing day. As a day where everything that is pink and rosy and in a very particular shape won't mean so much to me anymore, and just be like any other day. Just kind of like emotions, kind of like the seasons. Something passing, something fleeting. Something that just means a day with someone that I care, without having to hurt or remember bad things from my past. And that's okay. And I'm okay with that. It's probably going to take time. It's probably going to take a lot of effort, but it's effort that I'm willing to put in order to make sense of like what the world looks like in my experience. And I'm okay with that. And I think that's good enough for now. I think that's what is going to keep me going and try to like experience the world in a way that is okay for me to do, in a way where it's just me being me, without having all these titles to uphold, without having all these expectations to uphold. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I think that's as far as I might get today. And even though it got dark, even though it got very explanational, even though it got emotional, I'm okay with that. And I'm at peace with it. At least for now. So, I didn't get to talk about the piece because I didn't feel like talking about the piece. But maybe once in a while I'll do one of these where it's long and it's just me sitting down unscripted in the middle of feelings. Because sometimes we just need to do that. And that's okay. It's just okay. It's just part of what it means to exist. So. And maybe I'm gonna get moody with the channel of like being hyper, like excited about something, like some dumb unpacking video. Or super professional where I want to talk about a piece and like what it meant for me to do the piece and draw said thing and explain the said thing. Sometimes something like this will be fine. But it's just me talking without music for like half an hour. But we'll make it work. I'll make something here. Put something here. But if you think I've earned kind of like your attention or follow or whatever, you know what to do. If you just want to like sit with something like this and just want to hear somebody talk, that's fine too. I'll be back to doing what I normally do, and maybe in a couple more days or a couple weeks or however long it needs to be, I'll come back with another one, with another type of video. Let's see where this is going. Let's see where this is going, where it might take me, but I'm okay with that. And as always, if you listened all the way through and you still managed to stomach all of this, good for you, man. Thank you. Honestly, thank you. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for sticking all it out and then hear someone try to figure out what's going on in their head. So, thank you. And I hope that your family is safe. I hope you're safe. I hope that you come and go for your job, your visits to whomever, coming back from vacation, whatever. I hope that whenever you go home, you're able to go home and take a rest, because we all definitely need it. Anyway, I think that's all for me. I gotta record some other thing for a friend and then work on some commissions because it's the weekend. So I think I'm gonna leave it like that and then just go from there. Alrighty, well, I'll see you next time.